Hey guys, it's Charlie. It is May the 8th, Saturday. And we've had 48 hours or so now to reflect on what happened on the Dow Jones on Wednesday with this 1,000-point drop in the Dow. Now, I came out with a video minutes after the markets closed on Wednesday saying, the official story of a keystroke error was completely ridiculous. And if you believe that, then you'll believe anything, And now it's proven that there was no keystroke error. First of all, there's been a lot of people on YouTube here, the Vulcan Report for one, who has intimate knowledge on how Wall Street works on the street, and has corroborated the stories of it's impossible for one trader to sit there and crash the market. He just doesn't have that kind of power. He can go in, place an order, and all of a sudden we're off 1,000 points. $1 trillion in wealth is what that equates to, by the way. $1 trillion of wealth was vanished on Wednesday. Now, over half of that miraculously came back within a few minutes' time. But let me tell you what really happened on Wednesday. This is, in my opinion, what really happened, and I'm going to post stories with this to back my opinion up. The oligarch bankers, including the Federal Reserve, the banks that own the Federal Reserve, including the 12 banks in this nation right now that control 50% of the wealth in the banking system, they decided it was time to teach Congress another little lesson. Because it's been since September of 2008 when they've crashed the market to get $700 billion in free bailout money, and then $30 trillion behind that in guarantees and purchasing their crap assets that now are public debt. They decided to tell Congress, you're going to do it our way or else. What am I talking about? Two things. Number one, the Audit the Fed bill. The Audit the Fed bill that Ron Paul and Alan Grayson, Democrat from Florida, who his political views I don't agree with, but on his views for the banking system, I'm in lockstep with him and Ron Paul. They worked tirelessly to get this thing through Congress and had overwhelming support in the House of Representatives. I think it's up to 300 plus congressmen signed off on this bill. It passed as it stood, okay? That same bill Senator Sanders brought to the Senate. And he had over the last year 68 commitments, either in writing or verbal, for senators to vote for this. That's enough to get it passed as it is. He didn't have to change a word of the amendment. It was going to audit the Fed. It was going to audit the FOMC. It was going to audit the discount window. It was going to look at the Federal Reserve's dealings with other central banks in money swaps. It was going to be everything that the people of this country demanded, which is real transparency. We don't care how many paper clips the Federal Reserve uses. We don't care what their expense is on stationery. We want to know what they're doing with the monetary policy of the United States of America. The people of this nation are responsible for that money. In the long run, it's going to be flung onto the backs of the taxpayers. Period. End of story. We are not going to get a no. Why? Because after the stock market fell 1,000 points, Senator Sanders got called to the White House. Yes, just like Dennis Kucinich goes on a ride for Air Force One, and suddenly he's all for the health care bill. Now we have Senator Sanders, who's the author of the Senate amendment and has the power, because he's the author, to change the wording in the amendment. He has a meeting with the mighty one, and all of a sudden he wants to change the language in his very own amendment. Guys, this would have passed as is. We would have got the audit that we were all asking for and all waiting for. Now we're going to get bupkis. We're going to get the same watered-down piece of garbage audit. We're not going to have any transparency, and the oligarchs are going to answer to no one. And just in case they thought that they couldn't make it because they had 68 senators that were going to come on board and pass that piece of legislation, just in case, just to hedge their bet, because that's what they like to do on Wall Street, they crashed the market 1,000 points just to flex their muscle. So what happened? We lose the Audit the Fed amendment. Also, we lost another amendment that would have kept the too big to fails from being too big to fail. This amendment is called the Brown-Kaufman Amendment. You might have heard Carl Denninger speaking about it on his YouTube channel. Very simple piece of legislation. It states that a bank cannot be so large as to have 2% of GDP liability on their balance sheets. That's all. It's no big deal. It just says if you're a mega bank, you can't be systemic. If you crash, if you make horrible decisions, we don't want to bail you out. And if you fail, which is what banks are supposed to do when they make poor decisions in a true free market capitalist society. When you fail, you won't bring down the whole entire economy with you. Very simple legislation. It failed. 30 senators voted for it after the stock market crash. The 30 senators who voted for it, oddly enough, are all up for re-election, or they saw that the amendment was going to fail, so they decided to jump on the right side of the argument bandwagon. We are being absolutely 100% controlled and manipulated by oligarch bankers. We indeed are slaves to the same banksters that own the Federal Reserve and the 12 largest banks that control 50% of all the wealth in the banking system right now. And just for your own information, in 1998, it took 42 banks to equal 50% of the wealth in the banking system. In 2010, it's 12. And if they have their way, it's going to keep being upwardly integrated to where we have one world bank controlling all the financial institutions in all the world. Just look at the finance reform legislation going through right now. Who's going to end up with more power? The Federal Reserve. This is an absolute takeover of this country. And if you think it's not, then you better wake up. You better prepare, because it's coming fast and furious. And at the end of the day, when all the sovereign debt of all the world is finally realized that it can't be paid back, and we have Greece on a global scale, you're going to be sitting there saying, oh my God, I didn't see this coming. Well, it isn't because there hasn't been people out there crying in the wilderness telling you, get ready, get prepared, get yourself in the right mindset, because you are a pawn in this war. And when they decide to crash it, it's going to be a 1 or 2 day event, and they'll drop that market 10,000 points in a day if they want to. Stories are in the sidebar. That's all I got.